Deep in the vast expanse of space, far beyond the reach of any human eye, a group of highly advanced alien scouts made their way toward Earth. They were a sophisticated species, confident in their technological superiority, and their mission was simple: to observe and evaluate the primitive planet below. They had explored many worlds before, each with its own unique characteristics, but none had caught their attention quite like Earth. They had seen the rise of civilizations and watched as planets grew, but Earth was different. The aliens were intrigued by the rumors they had heard about humans, their resilience, their creativity, their potential. And now, they were about to discover it for themselves. Among the scouts was Zarvik, a seasoned officer with years of experience. He had led countless missions, and he knew how to remain unseen, how to observe without being detected. As their ship neared Earth's atmosphere, Zarvak activated his cloaking device, making the ship invisible to any sensors or watchful eyes on the planet. The others followed his lead, their technology so advanced that even the most sophisticated defense systems would be unable to detect their presence. They moved silently through space, confident in their stealth and their superiority. But then, something unexpected happened. As Zarvak maneuvered his ship closer to Earth, a sudden, violent surge of electrical energy shot through the ship's systems. The cloaking device flickered and sputtered, its protective shield suddenly destabilized. Zarvak's heart raced as he struggled to regain control of the ship. The energy coursed through the vessel, short-circuiting his systems, and before he could react, the ship lurched and began to spin wildly through space. His fellow scouts were caught off guard, their screens flashing with error messages. The ship's hull groaned as if protesting the onslaught of power. Zarvak's hands flew across the control panel, trying to stabilize the ship, but the shock was unlike anything he had ever experienced. This isn't possible," Zarvak muttered to himself, trying to process what was happening. The electrical surge wasn't just a technical malfunction. It was as though the planet itself had reached out and struck back, sending a powerful force through the alien craft. It was an attack from a planet that, according to their data, should have been nothing more than a primitive speck in the cosmos. Earth had no advanced technology, no weapons that could pose a threat to the alien scouts. And yet, here they were, fighting against something far beyond their understanding. Zarvak's voice crackled through the communication link to his fellow scouts. "We need to pull back," he warned, but his words were drowned out by the noise of the malfunctioning systems. The other scouts could only see flashing lights and hear alarms blaring as their ship's power began to fail. As the ship tumbled through space, Zarvak felt a deep sense of unease settle over him. He had faced many dangers in his time as a scout, but this felt different. He wasn't just dealing with a technical issue. He was dealing with a force far greater than he had ever imagined. Earth had just shown its first sign of resistance. One of his fellow scouts, Zoreth, spoke up, his voice filled with confusion. It must be a fluke, a glitch in the system. No planet should have this kind of power. But Zarvak wasn't convinced. He knew that what they were experiencing wasn't a coincidence. There was something on Earth that they had completely underestimated, something that had the ability to disrupt even the most advanced technology. The shock was a message, one that couldn't be ignored. Despite the chaos around him, Zarvak fought to regain control of his ship. But the damage was too great. The cloaking device had completely failed, and the alien scout's presence was no longer hidden from Earth. In a final desperate attempt to send a warning, Zarvak transmitted a brief message to the rest of his fleet. "We've been underestimated. Earth is not as weak as we thought." Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the electrical surge ceased. Zarvak's ship, now powerless, drifted helplessly in the cold void of space. His last transmission was lost, and the ship continued its slow, unintentional descent toward Earth. The alien scouts were shaken. They had underestimated Earth. But this encounter was just the beginning. What lay ahead would challenge everything they thought they knew about the planet. Back on Earth, the energy that had disrupted the alien ship was still lingering, though it remained unnoticed by most of the planet's inhabitants. On the surface, life continued as usual. People went about their daily routines, unaware of the strange forces at play above them. Among the humans, Ben, a young soldier stationed at a remote outpost, was carrying out his usual patrol. He had no idea that his life was about to change. As he moved through the dense forest, a faint humming noise reached his ears. It was unlike anything he had ever heard before, an eerie, vibrating sound that seemed to come from deep within the ground. He paused, listening carefully. The ground beneath him trembled slightly, and a strange sensation began to pulse in the air. Ben shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. He had been stationed in the area for months, and this was the first time he had encountered anything like it. He knelt down and touched the ground, feeling the hum beneath his fingertips. Suddenly, without warning, a powerful surge of energy coursed through his body. It felt like a shock, but it wasn't painful. In fact, it was exhilarating. His senses heightened, and he could feel his muscles tighten with newfound strength. For a moment, he thought he might be imagining it. But no, this was real. The energy was coming from the Earth itself, and it was unlike anything he had ever experienced. As Ben tried to make sense of the power surging through him, he noticed something else. In the distance, he could see a faint glow in the sky. A streak of light was moving rapidly across the atmosphere, heading directly toward the location of the alien craft. The glow seemed to be pulling the energy toward it, as if the planet itself was responding to an unseen threat. Ben stood up, his heart racing, and he knew instinctively that something important was happening. He wasn't sure what it was, but he felt an undeniable connection to the energy he had just encountered. Whatever it wasn't just a freak accident. Something was awakening within the Earth, something ancient and powerful, and it was about to reveal itself in a way that would change everything. The aliens, still unaware of the true power of Earth, would soon realize that their assumptions had been wrong. Earth wasn't just a primitive world. It was a world with a hidden strength, one that was ready to fight back. And as the energy continued to build, it would soon awaken something far more dangerous than the aliens could ever imagine. The shock had been sent, and the planet was responding. But no one, not even Ben, knew just how dangerous the Earth's secret could be. The alien commanders, after receiving Zarvak's report, were confident that the strange shock he had experienced was nothing more than an anomaly, a minor glitch that had caused a temporary disruption in their systems. They believed it was a simple, isolated event that didn't pose a threat. Earth, after all, was still considered a primitive planet. Their technology was far superior to anything humanity could ever muster. The Earthlings had no real defense, no real power. The commander's voice rang out across the war room as the screens flashed with images of Earth's surface. This is nothing more than a glitch. We will neutralize them swiftly. However, the alien commanders, though powerful and advanced, were gravely mistaken in underestimating Earth. They dismissed the disruption as mere coincidence, assuming that nothing could stand in the way of their dominance. They were wrong. To further cement their control and prepare for an easy victory, the commanders decided to deploy a small, elite squad of robotic soldiers and highly trained operatives to the surface of Earth. Their mission was simple: eliminate any human resistance quickly and quietly. The aliens had no plans for a drawn-out battle. They expected a swift, decisive blow that would silence humanity forever. On Earth, Ben and his squad of soldiers were continuing their routine patrols, unaware of the alien threat creeping ever closer. The quiet and peaceful day quickly turned to chaos as the cloaked alien ships began to make their move. Ben was with his team in a dense forest when the air suddenly shimmered, and the first attack hit without warning. A loud explosion erupted from above, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Ben's team scrambled, looking to the sky for the source of the attack, but the enemy ships were invisible to the naked eye, hidden by advanced cloaking technology. All they could do was watch as the battle began. Ben immediately went on high alert. He wasn't the only one. His squad was filled with seasoned soldiers, tough and resourceful. They had dealt with many situations before, but nothing like this. Suddenly, mechanical figures began to materialize from the tree line, silent as ghosts. The robotic soldiers, with sleek, black armor and glowing red eyes, were more like killing machines than anything human. The soldiers were equipped with powerful energy weapons capable of leveling entire buildings, and their cloaking technology allowed them to strike without being seen. Ben's heart pounded as one of the robots stepped forward, its weapon aimed directly at him. He could feel the heat of the blast before it even fired. But Ben's instincts kicked in. As the first robot fired, he dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the blast. His squad, though caught off guard, quickly regrouped. They were trained for combat, but nothing could prepare them for an attack like this. The humans had only their basic weapons, guns, and explosives, compared to the high-tech weaponry the aliens wielded. But they weren't about to back down. Despite the overwhelming odds, they fought back with all they had. The soldiers ducked behind trees, using the environment to their advantage. Ben's quick thinking led them to find cover, while the aliens continued to rain fire upon them. The battle raged on with the humans outgunned but not outmatched. Ben's squad used their ingenuity, quickly adapting to the alien tactics. They were able to disable several of the robotic soldiers by using a mix of strategy and brute force. Ben and his team had learned to be resourceful, knowing that in a fight like this, the more advanced technology of the enemy wasn't the only thing that mattered. It was also about who could think faster and fight smarter. As the robots advanced, Ben's squad began to understand how to counter their moves. The robots' cloaking devices worked well at first, but they weren't perfect. Ben's team used simple tricks to reveal their positions. A few well-placed distractions allowed them to target the robots' weak points. One of Ben's teammates, Sarah, managed to disable one of the robots by tossing a grenade near its energy core, causing a massive explosion that sent the robot crashing to the ground. The humans were on the offensive now, and the robots were forced to retreat momentarily. However, just as the humans started to gain the upper hand, a new threat arrived. Another alien ship descended from the sky, larger and more formidable than the first. This ship was not cloaked. It hovered just above the battlefield, casting a shadow over the area. From it, a squad of alien operatives disembarked. These soldiers, unlike the robots, were biologically superior beings with enhanced physical abilities, equipped with weapons far deadlier than anything the humans had faced so far. Ben's heart sank as he saw the alien operatives land, their movements swift and precise. The human soldiers could barely keep up as the alien warriors engaged in hand-to-hand combat, their agility and strength far beyond anything human soldiers could match. One of the alien operatives lunged at Ben, knocking him to the ground with ease, but Ben was not one to give up easily. With a quick motion, he activated his personal shield and rolled out of the way just in time to avoid a fatal blow. While Ben scrambled to regain his footing, a loud booming sound filled the air. A robotic soldier had reappeared, now fully visible, and it fired an energy blast directly at Ben's position. Ben had no time to react. But then, something strange happened. The same energy surge that had hit him earlier returned, coursing through his body once again. This time, it was more intense, more powerful. He could feel the strength of the energy surging within him, something he had never experienced before. With a roar of fury, he stood up, his muscles rippling with newfound strength, and delivered a powerful blow to the robotic soldier. The force of his punch sent the robot crashing to the ground, its systems short-circuiting as it collapsed. The alien operatives froze, staring in disbelief at the human who had just taken down one of their most advanced machines. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were witnessing something that they couldn't have imagined. Ben was no longer just a soldier. He was something more, something powerful, something dangerous. The energy from Earth, The same force that had disrupted the alien ships had awakened something inside him. The aliens had made a grave mistake in thinking that they could easily conquer humanity. The retreating robotic soldiers looked on in terror as Ben, his body still charged with the unknown energy, prepared for the next wave of battle. His squad, though battered and bruised, stood tall behind him, ready to fight on. The tide of the battle was turning, and the aliens could feel it. What had begun as a small skirmish had now become a fight for survival, a battle that humanity was beginning to win. The shockwaves of the alien assault were just beginning to be felt, and the Earth was waking up. This was no longer just about fighting for survival. It was about something much bigger, a battle for the future of humanity itself. And as the battle raged on, it became clear that the aliens had underestimated the strength of the human spirit. Ben and his squad were determined to prove that no matter how advanced the technology, the heart of humanity would always be their greatest weapon. The aliens had made a fatal mistake, and they were about to pay the price. The war between the aliens and humans raged on, but something was shifting in the battle's atmosphere. It wasn't just the desperation of the human forces fighting back against the alien invasion, but something deeper, something more powerful. Ben and his squad, after their surprising victory against the robotic soldiers, began to notice something strange, something unexplainable within themselves. It was as if they had become stronger, faster, more resilient, and they were able to do things they never could before. The humans had always been considered inferior by the aliens. Their technology, their weapons, their tactics, they were all based on simple, outdated methods compared to the vast, superior tech of the alien forces. But now, Ben could feel a change within him. The strange energy that had surged through him when he faced the robot wasn't a fluke. It was real. The power, the force that had awakened inside him, was something much more profound than just an accident. It was as though the Earth itself had chosen him and his squad to be the vessel for this incredible power. Ben and his team started to experiment with their newfound strength, testing the limits of their abilities. When they concentrated, they could feel the energy rising within them. It felt as though they could push their bodies beyond their normal human limits, as though they were tapping into something vast and ancient. Ben could feel it surge within him, like an electric current charging through his muscles, his thoughts becoming clearer, his senses sharper. This energy came from Earth itself, something deep within the planet, hidden for centuries, now awakening in response to the threat facing humanity. The more they used the energy, the stronger they became. Ben could now run faster, react quicker, and withstand injuries that would have been fatal just a few days ago. His teammates experienced similar changes. It wasn't just physical strength. It was also a mental clarity, an awareness of their surroundings that made them more effective on the battlefield. Their coordination was better, their strategies more effective, and they started to overpower the advanced alien technology that had previously seemed invincible. Alien drones that once appeared unstoppable were now being torn apart by the human soldiers' newfound strength. Their weapons, which had once been no match for the aliens, now seemed to have the edge. The energy didn't just make them physically stronger. It gave them an edge in combat, one that the aliens hadn't anticipated. The aliens, watching from their ships, began to realize that something had gone terribly wrong. What was happening on Earth was beyond their comprehension. They had been so sure of their superiority, their technological dominance. They had come to Earth expecting a quick and easy victory. But now, the humans were fighting back, and they were fighting with a power the aliens had never seen before. At first, the aliens dismissed the change in the humans as a temporary glitch, an unforeseen consequence of the shock they had experienced earlier. But as they observed Ben and his squad using this strange power to destroy part of their fleet, they began to panic. The human soldiers weren't just resisting anymore. They were winning. The tide of the battle was turning, and the aliens realized they had underestimated humanity. On the ground, the soldiers were now fully aware of the power they had gained. They were no longer just fighting to survive. They were fighting to take back their planet. As Earth's skies darkened with a massive alien fleet approaching, Ben and his comrades stood tall, determined to defend their home no matter the cost. The energy inside them surged as the air filled with the sounds of explosions and the distant hum of alien ships. The battle had reached its peak, and there was no turning back. Among the humans, Ben, a young soldier stationed at a remote outpost, was carrying out his usual patrol. He had no idea that his life was about to change. As he moved through the dense forest, a faint humming noise reached his ears. It was unlike anything he had ever heard before, an eerie, vibrating sound that seemed to come from deep within the ground. He paused, listening carefully. The ground beneath him trembled slightly, and a strange sensation began to pulse in the air. Ben shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. He had been stationed in the area for months, and this was the first time he had encountered anything like it. He knelt down and touched the ground, feeling the hum beneath his fingertips. Suddenly, without warning, a powerful surge of energy coursed through his body. It felt like a shock, but it wasn't painful. In fact, it was exhilarating. His senses heightened, and he could feel his muscles tighten with newfound strength. For a moment, he thought he might be imagining it. But no, this was real. The energy was coming from the Earth itself, and it was unlike anything he had ever experienced. As Ben tried to make sense of the power surging through him, he noticed something else. In the distance, he could see a faint glow in the sky. A streak of light was moving rapidly across the atmosphere, heading directly toward the location of the alien craft. The glow seemed to be pulling the energy toward it, as if the planet itself was responding to an unseen threat. Ben stood up, his heart racing, and he knew instinctively that something important was happening. He wasn't sure what it was, but he felt an undeniable connection to the energy he had just encountered. Whatever it wasn't just a freak accident. Something was awakening within the Earth, something ancient and powerful, and it was about to reveal itself in a way that would change everything. The aliens, still unaware of the true power of Earth, would soon realize that their assumptions had been wrong. Earth wasn't just a primitive world. It was a world with a hidden strength, one that was ready to fight back. And as the energy continued to build, it would soon awaken something far more dangerous than the aliens could ever imagine. The shock had been sent, and the planet was responding. But no one, not even Ben, knew just how dangerous the Earth's secret could be. The alien commanders, after receiving Zarvak's report, were confident that the strange shock he had experienced was nothing more than an anomaly, a minor glitch that had caused a temporary disruption in their systems. They believed it was a simple, isolated event that didn't pose a threat. Earth, after all, was still considered a primitive planet. Their technology was far superior to anything humanity could ever muster. The Earthlings had no real defense, no real power. The commander's voice rang out across the war room as the screens flashed with images of Earth's surface. "This is nothing more than a glitch. We will neutralize them swiftly." However, the alien commanders, though powerful and advanced, were gravely mistaken in underestimating Earth. They dismissed the disruption as mere coincidence, assuming that nothing could stand in the way of their dominance. They were wrong. To further cement their control and prepare for an easy victory, the commanders decided to deploy a small, elite squad of robotic soldiers and highly trained operatives to the surface of Earth. Their mission was simple: eliminate any human resistance quickly and quietly. The aliens had no plans for a drawn-out battle. They expected a swift, decisive blow that would silence humanity forever. On Earth, Ben and his squad of soldiers were continuing their routine patrols, unaware of the alien threat creeping ever closer. The quiet and peaceful day quickly turned to chaos as the cloaked alien ships began to make their move. Ben was with his team in a dense forest when the air suddenly shimmered, and the first attack hit without warning. A loud explosion erupted from above, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Ben's team scrambled, looking to the sky for the source of the attack, but the enemy ships were invisible to the naked eye, hidden by advanced cloaking technology. All they could do was watch as the battle began. It had happened just hours before the final assault. Ben had seen the whole thing unfold before his eyes. They had been fighting tooth and nail, side by side, as alien drones and war machines descended upon their position. They had managed to disable several enemy units, pushing the aliens back for a moment. But then, in the chaos of battle, Bonner had been caught in the blast from an alien grenade. Ben had tried to reach him, tried to pull him to safety, but it was too late. Bonner had died in his arms, his last words a plea for Ben to keep fighting, to keep going no matter what. The loss of Bonner weighed heavily on Ben. It was a pain unlike anything he had ever felt. The bond they had shared was unbreakable, forged in countless battles and shared experiences. Bonner was more than a friend. He was family. Now that bond had been shattered. The grief was overwhelming, but Ben knew that he couldn't let the pain stop him. Bonner had given his life for humanity's survival, and Ben knew what he had to do. He had to finish the fight. As the battle raged on, Ben became the symbol of humanity's defiance. His newfound energy powers were at their peak, and he led his squad through the chaos, inspiring the soldiers around him to keep fighting. His every movement was precise, fueled by the desire to honor Bonner's memory. The weight of his loss was still heavy, but it fueled him. His grief became a burning fire, a force that drove him forward, even when all seemed lost. The aliens, sensing the growing strength of humanity's resistance, launched their final assault. A massive mothership, controlled by an advanced AI, hovered above the battlefield. Its size was enormous, dwarfing even the largest of human warships. The mothership was equipped with an unstoppable weapon capable of annihilating entire cities with a single blast. The aliens had decided that they would finish the war once and for all. Earth's destruction was imminent, and there was nothing the humans could do to stop it. But Ben wasn't about to let that happen. He had come too far, and he had lost too much. The power of the Earth, the energy that flowed through him, surged within him as he gazed at the mothership looming in the sky. This was it, the final confrontation. The odds were stacked against them, but Ben wasn't afraid. He had something the aliens didn't, the will to fight for his planet, for his people, for those he had lost. With his squad by his side, Ben led a desperate charge toward the mothership. The air was filled with the roar of explosions, and the ground shook beneath their feet as they moved forward. The alien war machines that had once seemed invincible were now nothing more than obstacles to be overcome. Ben's energy had made him stronger than any of the enemy forces, and he cut through their defenses with ease. His squad followed his lead, each soldier now tapping into the same power that had awakened in him. The closer they got to the mothership, the more intense the battle became. Alien drones swarmed around them, firing energy blasts from all sides. Ben's energy surged within him as he pushed forward, dodging and weaving through the oncoming fire. His soldiers, once struggling to keep up, now fought alongside him with newfound strength. The bond between them was unspoken but solid. They were no longer just soldiers. They were a family, united by their shared purpose and the power they had unlocked together. As they reached the base of the mothership, Ben could feel the power building inside him. This was the moment he had been waiting for. The weapon on board the mothership had to be destroyed. If he didn't succeed, humanity would be doomed. But he knew that destroying the mothership wouldn't be easy. The AI-controlled systems were more advanced than anything they had faced before. The ship's core was heavily protected, and the closer Ben got, the more intense the alien resistance became. Ben's squad fought with everything they had, creating a path for him to reach the ship's core. The energy in the air seemed to hum, and Ben could feel the Earth's power pulsing through him as he made his way toward the heart of the mothership. But then, as he reached the core's entryway, something shifted. A moment of realization washed over him. This was it. There was no turning back. The core of the mothership was surrounded by a force field, a barrier that would require all of Ben's energy to breach. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. His mind raced with the thought of the people he had lost. Bonner, his friends, his family. The energy coursing through him was the Earth's will to survive, and he knew that it was time for him to make the ultimate sacrifice. In an emotional moment that seemed to freeze time, Ben made the decision. He would overload the mothership's core. The energy that had awakened in him was his only chance to destroy it, but it would come at a cost. He had to give everything he had, and in doing so, he knew he might not survive. Ben stepped forward, his body glowing with the raw power of the Earth. As he approached the core, he reached out and focused all of his energy on it. The power surged within him, becoming a tangible force. The air around him crackled with the intensity of the energy he was channeling. He could hear the alien war machines closing in, but he didn't look back. This was his moment. With a final, desperate push, Ben released the energy. The core of the mothership began to overload, and the ship's systems started to fail. Ben's body trembled under the strain as he gave everything he had. The explosion that followed was nothing short of catastrophic. A massive shockwave radiated out from the mothership, sending alien ships plummeting from the sky. The ground shook as the explosion tore through the battlefield, and the alien forces were thrown into disarray. As the smoke cleared, the humans stood victorious. The mothership was no more, and the alien forces were in retreat. But the cost of victory had been high. Ben had sacrificed himself to save humanity, and his team, his friends, would never forget the price he had paid. His sacrifice became the symbol of humanity's strength, a testament to their resilience, and the power that had awakened deep within their planet. Ben's death was not in vain. The aliens had been defeated, and Earth had been saved. But the emotional weight of that victory hung heavy in the air. The soldiers, battle-weary and scared, stood in silence, knowing that they had lost a hero. Ben had given everything for the survival of his world, and in doing so, he had shown humanity what true strength really meant. And though the battle was over, the memory of Ben's sacrifice would live on, forever etched in the hearts of those who had fought alongside him. His final stand had turned the tide of the war, and humanity had won. The battle that had once seemed impossible to win had come to a close, but the victory was bittersweet. The alien forces, battered and broken, had retreated into the darkness of space, leaving behind a scared Earth. The planet, once on the verge of destruction, had held its ground. Humanity had shown the invaders the true strength of its will. Yet, despite this great triumph, the cost had been enormous, and the scars of war would linger long after the last alien ship had disappeared from Earth's skies. Ben, though battered and bruised, stood as a testament to humanity's resilience. His body had been pushed to its absolute limits, but he had survived. The energy that had awakened within him had burned through his every cell, and yet, somehow, it had kept him alive. His heart still beat, his mind still raced, and though his body ached with the pain of every injury, he could not ignore the sense of victory that filled him. The alien threat had been vanquished, but the price had been steep. His squad, though victorious, was forever changed. They had seen friends fall, soldiers they had fought beside for years, lost to the horrors of war. Bonner's death still haunted Ben, and his loss was felt by everyone who had known him. But there was no time to mourn. Not yet. The war was over, but the wounds it had left behind were deep, and they would need time to heal. The alien commanders, though they had been forced to retreat, had learned a crucial lesson that day. Earth was not the weak, primitive world they had once thought it to be. The energy that had awakened in humanity was unlike anything the aliens had ever encountered. It was not just raw power. It was a force tied to the very heart of the planet. And now they knew that Earth could defend itself. The future of the galaxy was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity would no longer be an easy target. The retreating alien fleet left behind a planet scared by war. Cities lay in ruins, and vast swathes of land were left burned and barren. The battle had taken a heavy toll on both sides, but as the last alien ships disappeared into the distance, Earth began to breathe again. The skies, once filled with fire and smoke, began to clear. The survivors, though battered and broken, began to regroup and rebuild. Ben stood at the edge of the battlefield, staring out at the remains of the war. His mind raced with thoughts of the future. What would happen now? Humanity had proven that it could defend itself, but what would it mean for the future? Earth's hidden strength had been awakened, and it was only a matter of time before the galaxy took notice. The alien forces may have retreated for now, but there would be others, new threats, new challenges on the horizon. Would humanity be ready? As Ben stood there, he couldn't help but think of the potential that still lay within his people. The power that had surged through him, through all of them, was just the beginning. They had unlocked something ancient, something powerful, but they had only scratched the surface. There was so much more that humanity could do, so much more that they could become. The energy that had fueled their victory was not just a weapon, it was a part of them. And Ben knew that as humanity continued to grow and evolve, that power would only increase. He could already see it in the eyes of his fellow soldiers. They were changed. They had felt the power of the earth coursing through them, and they knew that they could never go back to what they were before. There was a fire in their hearts now, a fire that would not be extinguished easily. They had seen what they were capable of, and they would carry that knowledge with them into whatever came next. The soldiers that had fought by Ben's side were the first to begin the task of rebuilding. They worked alongside civilians, the survivors of the war, to clear the rubble and restore what had been lost. It was a slow process, but it was a process that was already underway. Earth's cities were in ruins, but they would rise again. The alien invaders had come to destroy, but they had underestimated humanity's ability to fight back, to rebuild, and to thrive. But even as they worked, Ben couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was at play. The galaxy was vast, and they had only seen a small portion of it. There were countless other alien races out there, many of whom were watching Earth now. The defeat of the alien fleet would not go unnoticed, and Ben knew that this was only the beginning. The Earth had defended itself, but what about the next threat? Would humanity be ready for what was to come? As the days passed and Earth began to heal, Ben found himself returning to the place where it had all started, the battlefield. The sounds of construction, the voices of soldiers rebuilding their homes, the hum of machines, all mixed together in the background. But Ben's mind was elsewhere. He stood there, looking out at the horizon, thinking about the energy that had coursed through him, the energy that had awakened in humanity. He felt it again, that power deep within the earth itself. It was still there, still pulsing beneath his feet, waiting for the right moment to awaken in others. Ben wasn't the only one who had felt it. There were others, soldiers, civilians, even children, who had tapped into that energy in small ways. And as humanity healed, that energy would grow stronger. The future of Earth was in their hands, and Ben knew that it would be humanity's strength, their unity, and their determination that would carry them through whatever lay ahead. He thought about Bonner. His friend had sacrificed his life for the cause, and now it was Ben's turn to carry that torch forward. The war had been won, but the battle for Earth's future had only just begun. The galaxy was filled with unknown dangers, and humanity's role in it was still unclear. But Ben knew one thing for certain. Earth was no longer a helpless planet, waiting to be invaded. Earth was a force to be reckoned with. The final image that Ben would carry with him as he watched Earth begin to heal was the clear sky above. The smoke had cleared, the sun was shining once more, and the silhouettes of the surviving soldiers stood tall, side by side, ready for whatever challenge would come next. Humanity had endured, and now it was time to rebuild. The journey was far from over, but Ben was confident that Earth's future was bright. For the first time in a long time, Ben smiled. The victory had come at a great cost, But it was a victory nonetheless, and as he looked toward the horizon, he knew that humanity would rise again. The battle for the future had only just begun. In the vast emptiness of space, the remnants of the once proud alien fleet limped back toward their home territories. The flagship, battered and scorched, moved sluggishly at the forefront, carrying the alien commanders who had witnessed the unthinkable. The silence on the command deck was deafening. No one dared speak as the weight of their failure loomed over them like a suffocating shadow. They had underestimated humanity, a mistake they now realized would haunt them for generations. The alien leader, Supreme Strategist Tiverek, stood rigid in front of the central holo display. His sharp, angular features were taut with barely contained rage. The map of Earth rotated slowly on the screen, a vivid reminder of their defeat. He clenched his hands behind his back, his claws digging into his palms. For centuries, their civilization had dominated countless planets, absorbing resources and subjugating species with ease. Earth was meant to be no different, a backwater planet, inhabited by a primitive race unworthy of consideration. But now it was clear how wrong they had been. Tiverek turned to his second-in-command, Commander Raylis, who stood silently beside him. "How did we not see this coming?" Tiverek's voice was low, but it carried an edge that sent shivers through the crew. "All our intelligence, all our calculations, how could we fail to predict such a power hidden within them?" Raylis hesitated, his normally composed demeanor faltering. Supreme Strategist, the energy they wielded, it was unlike anything we have encountered. It defies all known science. It seems to be tied to their very planet, an energy source we could not detect from afar. We did not know it existed. Tiverek's gaze darkened. Ignorance is no excuse. This failure will not go unnoticed by the Galactic High Council. He turned back to the holo display, watching as Earth's image shimmered and glowed. It no longer looked like an easy target. The blue planet, once thought of as insignificant, now radiated with a sense of untapped power. A power that had not only repelled the invaders, but had shattered their pride and might. The strategist's mind churned with thoughts of their defeat. They had come to conquer, armed with weapons of devastating capability and fleets that could blot out the sun. Yet, humanity had not only survived the assault, but had fought back with a ferocity and ingenuity that defied logic. The activation of the strange energy within certain humans had turned the tide of the battle. Tiverek had personally witnessed their soldiers obliterate advanced war machines with what seemed like sheer willpower amplified by this newfound force. It was terrifying and fascinating in equal measure. Supreme Strategist, a communications officer interrupted cautiously, breaking the heavy silence. "We've intercepted a signal from Earth. It appears to be directed at us." Tiverek's eyes narrowed. "Put it through." The holo display shifted, and the image of a human soldier appeared. It was the same man who had led the final assault on their forces. Even through the static-filled transmission, Tiverek recognized the intensity in his eyes. This was the one they called Ben. "This is not over." Ben's voice rang out, steady and resolute. "If you or any others dare to return to Earth, know that we will be ready. You have awakened something you cannot comprehend. Humanity will not be conquered. We will not bow. The galaxy will learn to fear the strength of Earth." The message ended abruptly, but its impact lingered. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, and even Tiverek felt a momentary chill. The words were not merely a threat. They were a promise. Humanity, once dismissed as weak and insignificant, had declared itself a force to be reckoned with. "Strategist, what are your orders?" Raylis asked, his voice low but urgent. The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Tiverek turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "We retreat to the outer sectors. The fleet must be repaired, and our forces regrouped. But more importantly, we must warn the Council. Humanity is not what we believe them to be." Raylis nodded, though unease flickered in his eyes. "And what of their message? Do we respond?" Tiverek considered this for a moment before shaking his head. "No, Let them think we are cowed for now. But make no mistake, they will not go unchallenged. We will find a way to neutralize their power. But first, we must understand it. As the fleet moved farther from Earth, the alien leaders convened in a secure chamber aboard the flagship. The air inside was tense, charged with the weight of their failure. The holographic representation of Earth hovered in the center of the room, surrounded by streams of data collected during the invasion. Scientists and strategists pored over the information, searching for answers. This energy source, one of the scientists began, his voice trembling slightly. It appears to be tied to Earth's core. It is ancient, possibly predating humanity itself. The humans seem to have only recently tapped into its potential, but its true limits remain unknown. Another strategist added, if they master this power, they could become the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Their technology may be primitive by our standards, but their adaptability and resilience are unparalleled. Tverik listened in silence, his mind racing. The implications were staggering. Humanity's potential was not limited to defending their planet. If they expanded into the stars, they could challenge the very order of the galaxy. The balance of power was shifting, and the aliens were no longer the dominant force they once believed themselves to be. As the meeting continued, Tverik made a decision. A message would be sent to the Galactic High Council, warning them of the threat Earth now posed. It would be a stark and chilling declaration. Humanity was no longer a species to be ignored. The transmission was prepared and sent across the stars, carrying with it the grim details of the battle and the newfound power of the human race. The strategist knew that this warning would spark fear among the other advanced civilizations, but fear was a necessary response. Earth's rise could not be ignored. Back on Earth, Ben stood amidst the ruins of the battlefield, unaware of the ripple effect his actions had set in motion. He watched as humanity began to rebuild, their spirits unbroken despite the devastation. The energy within him still thrummed, a reminder of the power that had turned the tide of war. He knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy would not remain silent, and Earth's victory would draw both allies and enemies. As the smoke cleared and the skies brightened, Ben's gaze turned upward, toward the stars. Somewhere out there, he knew the aliens were regrouping, plotting their next move. But he also knew that humanity was ready. They had faced the impossible and emerged victorious. Whatever came next, they would stand united. In the cold void of space, the alien fleet disappeared into the distance, their retreat marked by silence. But within that silence lay a message, a warning that would echo across the galaxy. Humanity had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same again.